This month we went on 3 different cruises to try and figure out if living on a cruise ship is something we should consider as part of our overall retirement plan. This week we changed from one cruise ship to another cruise ship, and we learned something really important. Hi there, I'm Timmy with Overthinking Retirement. If you're new here, this channel is all about trying to figure out what gives us joy in retirement and how to make our retirement dreams work. So what did we learn this week? We learned that the cruise line you choose really matters. So we're really glad that we're doing this research, because if we do decide to live on a cruise ship or spend an extended time cruising in the future, the cruise ship we choose can have a dramatic impact on how much fun we have, how much we enjoy the journey. So we started the week with Virgin Cruises. We boarded a cruise last week, and the majority of the week, the 5 days this week, were spent on Virgin Cruises. And there were a lot of things that we really liked about Virgin Cruises. Different cruises have dramatically different overall feels. So Virgin Cruises is kind of known as a party line. It's an adult-only cruise, so there are no children that come on board. So you might think that it's kind of a free-for-all. And we honestly, when we booked the cruise, we're like, are we really the right demographic for this cruise? We're a little bit older. We're not super party people, but we wanted to give it a chance, and they have a lot of great features on Virgin. So the things we really liked about Virgin were not so much that there were no kids, but that people getting away without their children just seemed so relaxed. So you could tell that everybody on the cruise was just there to have a good time. It was a very accepting environment, so I wouldn't say there was any ageism or any looking down on a person because they were in their 70s or because they were a wheelchair user. It was just a happy, happy place. People were glad to be there, and everybody seemed very relaxed and ready to have a good time. The second thing that I really noticed and really liked about Virgin Cruises was their crew. Their crew were very friendly. They enjoyed stopping and chatting with people. I saw it happening all the time. I experienced it myself. You could just tell that they were probably better compensated, and they were probably just a little bit happier to have that job with Virgin. And again, I don't know anything about the background on these jobs, but you can tell when people are happy in their job, and the crew genuinely seemed glad to be there. The third thing that I really liked about Virgin is that they had all of their restaurants included in the price. Now, it was a little bit difficult sometimes to book the restaurants because we booked the cruise kind of last minute, so other people had an opportunity to make their reservations way, way before we did. But we were still always able to get into the restaurants that we wanted to get into, and we didn't have to pay extra. So I had so much steak. We are living on a budget. We are trying to live on $120 a day. So we do not get steak in our diet all that often in our normal daily lives. So I took advantage of this cruise. I had steak for breakfast. I had steak for dinner. I had steak tacos for lunch. And David did the same thing, only with seafood, because we, again, don't get a ton of seafood in our regular stay-at-home cooking for ourselves. So I really enjoyed the fact that we could eat in a restaurant, a very nice restaurant, every night. The other thing I enjoyed is that Virgin, even though it has this party atmosphere, they do not have drink packages. So many of the cruise lines have these very affordable packages people can buy so that they can drink as much as they want on the cruise. Well, Virgin doesn't have that. And so we did not really notice people drinking to excess at all on the cruise. Even like there was a point where they gave out free champagne to everybody for the sail away, which was lovely. But you could tell that the champagne that they gave out was not super high alcohol content because people weren't getting drunk. So that was my experience. Your experience may vary, but I really enjoyed that aspect of the cruise. People not going a little too far with their alcohol consumption. And also they have a lovely private island Actually, I don't think it's a private island. They have a lovely private beach club on an island. And in the different cruises that we went, it was our favorite place to go because it was fun. The food was good. The beach was lovely. So of the two cruises, Virgin was my favorite. Now we got off the Virgin cruise and then we spent the night in Miami, and then we got right back on to another cruise, and that was Norwegian Cruise Line. Now, Norwegian Cruise Line, I gotta say, I wanted to love. And the reason that I wanted to love Norwegian Cruise Line is because it's a lot less expensive than Virgin Cruise Line. But I didn't love it as much. So a couple of the things I noticed is the crew genuinely did not seem as happy to be there. Not that anybody was grumpy or that the service was bad. You could just tell that they were maybe not being compensated as much as the folks over at Virgin, or that maybe they made them work a little bit harder, or a lot harder, because they were not as quick to engage. They were, always rushing to go do this or go do that. And, that's probably one of the reasons the cruise is less expensive, because they're not paying their crew as much. So I think, I don't know, I would rather pay a little bit more and feel like the people who are working there are getting properly compensated. The other thing is the people, it seemed more crowded. There were more people, there were more large families, there were more kids. They run specials on Norwegian Cruise Line, I think, where kids can come for free. So it genuinely made the ship just feel a lot more crowded, and the people on the ship just seemed a little more stressful, a little more stressed out, harder to find a place to have your breakfast and, things like that. They also didn't seem quite as well organized, and the ports that they chose were ports that we had to take a little boat off of to get to the beach where they had their private beach club. And it took literally a couple hours sometimes just to get off the ship in order to go do the sightseeing that we wanted to see. So that was a real drawback in my mind. The thing I really liked about them is the price was fantastic. Yeah, they generally have some really good discount cruises on Norwegian Cruise Line, and it is a mid-level cruise line, so it was still very luxurious. A great job keeping our room clean, always lovely food at the buffet and lovely food in the main dining room. So we really had a great time, not meaning to complain here. Just that, just wanted to really make the point that if you are thinking of living on a cruise line, do some research ahead of time to make sure that you're living on the cruise line where you're going to have the best time, if you can afford to. So that's it. This is what we spent on our week of cruising this month, and we had a terrific time on both cruise lines. So we always start with our fixed expenses, and our fixed expenses are $29 a day. This covers insurance, our cell phones, our charitable giving. And so we have that no matter where we are in the world. And then for this cruise on Virgin, it was $256 a night. That was for a balcony room, and it includes gratuities for the crew. For alcohol, it was $43 a day for the package we chose, which is basically you buy $300 of a credit, and they give you $500 to spend on alcohol. So, and that was plenty for us. We found it was perfect. And let's see. So on Monday, we just had the $256 and the $43. That was $328 total for the day. On Tuesday, we added to that $40 of gambling. So the cruise expenses and the gambling came to $368. Wednesday spent the exact same amount, just $40 of gambling. The way they had the cruise designed, you just had to sort of walk through the casino to get to the entertainment. So that was probably a very good design for them, because if we were bored and waiting for the doors to open for a show we wanted to go to, we just spent the money gambling. So, and then on Thursday we didn't do any gambling, so it was just our regular expenses of $328. On Thursday, the cruise was done. We were sad. They made us go home. One of the other things I liked about Virgin is that they allow you to stay on board for a little bit longer. I think we didn't have to get off of the ship until somewhere around 10 o'clock. And since we weren't getting right back on another ship, we weren't in a big hurry to leave. We just took our time in the morning, got ready and left. And then we moved to a hotel. So this particular hotel, we were able to use points to purchase the room. So we just had to pay a resort fee at the hotel. So the hotel was $42. Then we went out to dinner that night. That was $50. And then we had an Uber ride to the hotel. So that was $30. Our total for Friday was $151, which was nice to have a little break from the big expense of the cruise. So then on Saturday, we moved to our Norwegian cruise, and that cruise was a little bit less expensive. We were able to get a discount on the cruise by playing a game called My Vegas. So we got $600 off the cruise. So the total fare for a balcony room, which was nice, on Norwegian Cruise Line was $968. Divided that by 7, and that comes to $138. And then Norwegian doesn't include the gratuity in their cruise fee. So we add to that $40 to cover the compensation for tipping and such of the people on the cruise. So it brought the daily fee for the cruise to $178. And then we also had a $17 Uber ride over to the cruise. On Sunday, all we had was the cruise fee. So it was $178 plus our fixed expenses for a total of $207. And then the total for the week was our highest week yet, I think, in our $120 a day challenge. The total was $1,974. Our allocated amount is $840. So we were way, 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 way over. But we did expect that. We did not expect that we would be able to, cruise the world on $120 a day. Just that maybe we could cruise the world for part of the year. So we overspent by $1,134. So that is going to bring us into the negative. We've been saving for a couple months to try and have extra for these cruises, but we have not saved enough. So we started the week with $251 and we overspent by $1,134. And that means our budget bucket, which is sort of keeping track of how we're doing with this budget challenge, is in the negative by $883. So that's it. That's week 19 of our retirement, both what we did and what we spent. If you enjoy this type of content, please do like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you have any thoughts about Virgin Voyages versus Norwegian Cruise Line. I hope to see you next week. Until then, I'll be overthinking.